Gustave Courbet once said that he had a friend who would wake up in the night yelling, "I want to judge, I want to judge." In 1873, Courbet painted La Truite, the trout. The eponymous trout is hooked on the line and on the rocks, mouth open, eyes fixed, bleeding from the gills. It's dying, which means it's alive. The trout was painted between Courbet's release from prison, where he spent 6 months for his participation in the 1871 Commune, and his self-exile to Switzerland, where he died of drink in 1877, one day before the first yearly payment of a 33-year fine was due in Paris. It is the portrait of the artist as subject to the judiciary. I am interested in the position of the trout. Who owns the trout? And does the ownership of the trout depend upon what the trout is? Is the trout an image of the trout, the artist, or the fisherman who catches and is thereby also caught up with the fish? For that matter, should art ever be a matter of ownership? And is ownership the only path by which we recognize a claim of right? Given that ownership, being as unfixed as right and as perspectival as history, seems too slippery a hook, too long a line. Given that the artist seems to own something in the work, and the public owns something else, and the next public another thing altogether. And do we believe that art is nothing more than an expression of the artist's personality, or their most accessible biography? This seems a stupid question, but there's usually something to be said for stating the obvious. Is the artist a trout? If the artist is a trout only by virtue of being seen as a trout, then what is seen in the work of the artist is not the work or even the worker, but its reception. Does reception then lie in the eye of the beholder? And which beholder? Who, in other words, is the trout beholden to? Almost platonically, then, does perception become reception? And is art only art that satisfies its recipients? Here we start to get into the recipient judge and the question of morality versus ethics. I would suggest that morality tends more towards the judicial, a law that has something to do with right, something to do with both truth and enforceability, whereas ethics is more structural and more personal, something that has to do with little with ownership or biography or truth, and a lot to do with the lack of a fixed or even cognizable claim of right. Ethics are contingent, formal. Morality, contrarily, is choral, always right, already landed. And if we know that reception of art is not fixed, just as the object is not fixed, just as the notion of art is not fixed, then how do we account for our own historical contingencies, our own ethical contentions, our own choral demands? To put it very simply, the question seems to be no longer, what is art? But why is art? For insofar as art remains visible, it must be partial, ongoing. And if it is partial and ongoing, then it is a form of theater, a staging that includes the performance of itself, at once done to be redone through its many great and small premeditated and accidental audiences, a continuation of time by other means and in other space. The trout does not rot, though it is still red. The image is never a fact in this sense or a verediction, but a gesture, like the gesture between le poisson and la passion, between péché and péché. Because a gesture is a performance, and a performance is a proposition. Art, therefore, is a question about a fish.
La nature est un temple où de vivants piliers laissent parfois sortir de confuses paroles. L'homme y passe à travers des forêts de symboles qui l'observent avec des regards familiers, comme de longs échos qui de loin se confondent dans une ténébreuse et profonde unité, vaste comme la nuit et comme la clarté. Les parfums, les couleurs et les sons se répondent. Il est des parfums frais comme des chairs d'enfants doux, comme les hautbois verts, comme les prairies et d'autres, corrompus, riches et triomphants, ayant l'expansion des choses infinies, comme l'ambre, le musc, le benjoin et l'encens qui chantent les transports de l'esprit et des sens.